Hello and welcome back to Live Love Lang. I'm Teresa and this is where we teach you how to learn multiple languages and how to go abroad. And today I'm going to be doing a app review where I'm going to tell you about this new app that I've been using called Lingodeer. And it's kind of a Duolingo related app. I did do a video about Duolingo already, so if you didn't see that, go check that out. I will do a slight review here, but basically I'm updating my opinions and comparing these two apps. So from @catchingthelight, it says definitely Lingodeer. I mean, the heavy cat eats on the newspaper. Excuse me, Duolingo? Shade. From Elisa M. Kraye, 89. Duolingo is pretty bad. Duolingo is pretty bad. Duolingo is pretty bad. I tried it when I first got into Korean and it almost put me off of learning it. From chaos.calligraphy. However, neither of the apps should be used on their own, but personally, I find Lingodeer a lot more helpful for learning grammar than Duolingo. Safia.jones says, Lingodeer is really only good for basic beginners since it has a few flaws with its grammar. So then the Studying Night Owl simply says Lingodeer. Maori Polyglot says, I prefer Lingodeer, but I've been using Duolingo since 2015 and I'm just bored of it. Vintage Linguist says, love Lingodeer as a Chinese beginner. Duolingo gets repetitive for other languages at intermediate level.
Duolingo is an AI that creates games for you to practice languages on the fly. Their website does boast that this AI kind of figures out what kind of questions are better for each individual learner, although I have never really noticed this in action, so I'm not really that sure about that. Now, Lingodeer is a human-produced curricula and has native voiceovers all over the platform. It's an all-in-one platform to take you through beginner level. It has stories, video lessons, audio comparisons, games, and flashcards in one platform. It has Korean, Japanese, Mandarin, Spanish, French, German, Portuguese, Russian, and Vietnamese on their platform. And they're also known for Asian languages, so if you are learning one of the Asian languages listed here, then I would definitely recommend for you to try Lingo out at least.
So the first thing I mentioned that I liked Duolingo for is memorizing vocabulary. Considering that Duolingo doesn't really have that much information on grammar unless you go into the forums, which I also talk about, vocabulary is really what you're trying to pull here. I find that it's a really good place just to drown yourself in the language, just throw yourself into the deep end, because it can be quite startling just to say, all right, I'm gonna learn a language, and then start watching a movie or something without subtitles, and you're swimming in stuff that you don't know. So I did feel that Duolingo was good in the beginning because it gave you these basic words that you want to know, it just kind of allowed you to know the basics without too much commitment. So you could just, click through blah 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 and you would learn the words for man and baby and music and newspaper and these kind of things. Lingodeer also does that. So I would say that it's good for vocabulary, but I think it's a little better for vocabulary. Why? Well, Duolingo has a whole other separate app for the vocabulary that's inside of the lessons, but Lingodeer has it all in one platform. So you can learn vocabulary in 4 or 5 different ways. Yes, the games, yes, your voice recording, as well as built in there are flashcards. So I would say that both apps are really good with this. Perhaps I'd say Duolingo is better with no commitment learning. It's just something for you to dip your tongue and taste it. Instead of ordering the whole frappuccino, if you just kind of see how you feel. But Lingodeer is probably more serious. If you want to start learning the language on the right foot, then I would say Lingodeer is better for vocabulary. The last point that I had on the Duolingo video was about grammar explanations. And I was really excited to introduce to everyone because when I was using Duolingo all those years ago for Spanish, I had thought that there was no grammar explanations whatsoever, which really had a huge blow on how I felt about the app. But after looking through, I realized you could click on that new word or grammar and then there would be an explanation on the desktop version. I had no idea about that. Mind you, it's a short explanation. It's usually about, like one desktop screen full. It's never very long, but they did have some grammar explanation and I kind of liked the vernacular of how the person wrote it. So it was very again, calm and not too grammar, The other points could have been kind of 50-50, but this point is definitely Lingodeer takes the cake. I tried Lingodeer in 3 different languages and all of them, the grammar explanations were much more in detail, enough that I would want to print them. Now, just like the comments and recommendations that you saw earlier, it can't be a standalone source. It is definitely still for beginner to intermediate learners, but I would say that if you want to pay for one thing that allows you to practice, check yourself, do exercises, as well as have grammar printouts to read and to hear your voice against natives, to have a community. If you want one place that does all of those things for you, Lingodeer is where it's at. You should invest in that if you're in the beginning to intermediate stages and you want that. You want something that can kind of help you on all sides and keep you, especially if you don't live in the country.
Duolingo is what I would use if you were interested in just seeing what the language looks like and sounds like. I'd also say it's good for busy people who are competitive because they use incentive learning to keep people on the platform. For me, that's a bit much, and instead kind of discourages me from using it actually, because I like to learn, I don't like to be measured or given ultimatums or whatever for my learning, because it kind of discourages me from the process of learning, So if you're one of those people, because there are many of these people in the Duolingo community, all of these people who, keep up their streaks and these kind of things, like people talk about being in the middle of parties and then just stopping and going to make sure their Duolingo streak is kept up or whatnot. My favorite feature of Duolingo is actually the really funny phrases that they put into the AI, because I have a lot of friends who really dislike it because it gives you kind of random vocabulary, I don't know, they say turtle a million times, or they say why did you bite your cousin, or some weird sentence like that. But I actually like it because it throws in a really funny sentence every once in a while, makes me want to screenshot it, makes me remember the sentence. I don't know, I think it's kind of quirky and funny and can be really enjoyable sometimes. Lingodeer is exceptionally good for people who are learning Asian languages and has very descriptive grammar and exercises that are actually helpful to keep you on track with your learning and not just have you grasping in the dark, which Duolingo often does to you. It is the best for someone who wants to invest in one place where they can study, practice, and improve their beginner to intermediate studies. So Lingodeer, what I mean by not having you grasp in the dark, is that it brings you through every different stage of language. Learning the grammar, learning it, using the grammar in games and exercises in their main AI-produced game section, like Duolingo. And then you have the flashcards as well as the videos and the stories that also help you utilize whatever you're learning. So there's a process to things and it's all in one place. Duolingo does have some of these other features, but they're all on separate sister sites or platforms. My favorite feature of Lingodeer is the fact that you can compare your voice with a native speaker's voice. So on Duolingo, you can only input your voice and Duo, the AI, will tell you if you pronounce something right or wrong. But it doesn't actually help you in knowing inflections or where to lift your intonation or if you sound right. Like, it doesn't give you that confirmation. It doesn't give you the input output immediately, if that makes any sense. It's only one direction. So in Lingodeer, you can play, well, record your own voice first against the native speaker's voice. And then you play the native speaker and you play your voice. And you play the native speaker and you play your voice. And you can hear what it is that you're doing differently from the native speaker. And then you can re-record and re-record and re-record if you'd like to until you're close enough and you feel satisfied.
Position, a very lofty position, and a position where you can accomplish a great deal.
This video is sponsored by Lingodeer. I was using the platform and enjoyed it so much that I really wanted to give you guys some kind of deal, some kind of option to get the paid version yourself. And to really push this app with you guys. Ikena listed it as one of the best apps for language learners, as well as it's kind of commonplace knowledge in the language community that Lingodeer is where it's at when it comes to Asian languages. So for all of you, I am offering you a 15% off if you use the code LiveLoveLang at checkout for any of the plans for Lingodeer. So that's LiveLoveLang, LiveLuVLang.
So that's how I feel about Lingodeer versus Duolingo, and I would like it to be more of a, okay, this is good in that way and this is good in that way, but to be honest, it's kind of not much of a competition, as you can tell by all of the responses that people gave me on Instagram from all the people who have used it before. Let me know, have you used Lingodeer before? Do you love Duolingo? What? I don't know. Tell me. How do you feel? Tell me in the comment section down below. And yeah. So I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget, if you want more information on Duolingo, then you can check this video. And if you want Lingodeer, there is a link in the description box below. Bye.